Hey guys, Psychotics here. Got another video how to improve at RTA. Today we're going to be talking about speed and speed tuning and how to gear your champions with speed properly to make sure that you're going in the right order and to help you win in RTA. Um, Biggest thing when I started playing Epic 7, and I think a lot of people probably hit this, is when you go online to Reddit or to YouTube or whatever to find out, what gear do I build? What do I put on this character? The overarching theme is speed. Everybody says get your Wyvern farm, get your speed gear, get your speed sets, and just speed, speed, speed. That's all everybody really talks about. But no one really goes into depth on why and how and when you shouldn't build speed. Because that's another thing people don't talk about is some characters they don't want speed. Some need a lot of speed. Some just need a little bit of speed. So let's get into it. What does speed actually do for you? Speed affects where you are on the CR ladder throughout the game. At the start of the game, in general, the highest speed character is going to go first, and the lowest speed character is going to go last, and everybody's going to fill in between. And that's going to give you what I like to call turn order. It's a little easier for newer players to understand it that way than to talk about the CR ladder. So if you want to talk about the CR ladder, just think of it as turn ordering. It's so that you can better understand it in your head. So faster characters gonna go fast. They're gonna go first, and they're gonna take more turns because they're gonna and on their second and subsequent turns, they're gonna be higher up on that turn order or CR ladder than slower characters. So that's why you want speed. You want to take more turns, and you want to take them before your enemy in most situations. So, what is speed tuning? Speed tuning is where you tune your team's speed so that your characters take their turns in the proper order. And that's going to be determined by what your characters do and what you're trying to accomplish with those characters. So, let's dive into this a little bit further. So, your fastest characters are going to be your speed contesters. And these are characters that you want to build with as much speed as you can get. And these are going to be characters that you want to have enough speed that they're going to go first, without a doubt. So, what are some examples? Acid, A. coli, Lytica. These are some good examples right now. And their toolkits enable them to sacrifice other stats to get that speed and still allow them to do their job. A. coli has her burn on an S3, allows her to still put out the damage she needs to do in order to get that high speed. Acid has the silence and the CR push on his S3, which will allow him to push back or silence whoever he's trying to stop from taking their turn first. So that's how they can still do their job, even at those high speeds, even if they don't necessarily have the damage or the other stat that they're sacrificing to get that speed. Next up, you're going to want to have your CCers, your debuffers, and your CR boosters. These guys need speed, and they need a lot of it, but they also need other stats. And that's what separates them from speed contesters. For example, your CC and debuffers, you're going to need effectiveness. You can't land your CC if you don't have effectiveness. So you're going to sacrifice some of that speed to get that effectiveness, which is why they're never going to be as fast as an Acid unless your gear is just insanely crazy, or theirs is not as good as yours. So what's a couple good examples? You're going to have your Bassar, a Speed Dizzy. Cerise is another one. Sage Ball is a good one. And their job is to CC or debuff the opponent, and that's why they need that effectiveness. A good example of a CR booster is going to be Alots. I don't put them CR boosters with speed contesters because usually their base speed is so low that they can't reach those high speeds. But you still can build them pure speed, but they're going to lose utility throughout the game after the CR push. But you still can build your Alots like as fast as possible, but you'll never reach in equal gear an Acid or an A. coli because their just base speed is faster. That's why I put them in the same range as your CCers and debuffers. But they do need high speed, but they also need those other stats to do their job, and that's why they can't be as fast. Next up, you're going to have your buffers and your cleansers. These guys need a good amount of speed because they want to go before your damage dealers and you want to go before the enemy damage dealers, but you still need a lot of other stats because you still want to survive. They're not a one turn pony or whatever. You know, they use all their abilities. They're there for more than one turn. So you don't want them to just, do their buffs and then get deleted next turn because then they're not doing their job. So some examples, you want to have your DN, ML Crow is another good one. Doris, Ross, these guys, they want a good amount of speed, but they also need survival stats, usually. Because they want to buff up your team, they want to cleanse any debuffs that the enemy debuffers put out, and they want to go right before your damage dealers so that you can have those attack buffs or whatever they're buffing your team with. So next up, you're going to want your healers. You want your healers to go after your enemy damage dealers because you want to be able to actually heal the damage. You don't want to go before they deal any damage because then you're essentially wasting your turn. So you want a lower speed on them, but you still want enough speed to not be lapped by the enemy team and to the point where you don't actually get to heal. Like if you have a base speed Momo going in against like a 200 speed team, she's never actually going to get to heal, and she's just going to sit there and die while your team dies as well. So that's why you want speed, but you don't want a lot of it. It's kind of a balance. You want enough stats so that you can survive and put out healing, and you want enough speed to actually get to take a turn. Next up, we're going to talk about damage dealers. Damage dealers are similar to healers, and they want a decent amount of speed, but they don't want too much. Because you don't want to sacrifice their damage for speed. And you don't want them to be going before your buffers. So you want them in that sweet spot where they're going right after your buffers. They have enough damage on the rest of their gear so that they can go, but they're still going to go before their enemy team, ideally, and they can still do their job. And the last category on your speed champions are the ones that don't want any speed at all. These are what I like to call nukers. These are going to be built with as little speed as possible, ideally 0 speed. And they're going to rely on a CR pusher like a Alots to push them up to actually get to take their turn. So you have full damage, they're glass cannon, but they are going to delete the enemy team. Good example is going to be like a Judge Kisei or something like that. It's just, you A-lots, you push them up, give them attack buff, and they take their turn, and the game's over. So that's why you don't want any speed, because you don't want to get any damage. You want as much damage on them. So, when you're picking your team, you want to take these things into consideration, right? If you know that your buffer's speed is not faster than your damage dealers, you either need to re-gear them, or you can't realistically pick them into an RTA, because they're going to be too slow, and they're going to miss their chance to use their abilities. So you want to take that into consideration when you're rolling gear and when you're gearing people, is what is your champion actually doing in the RTA, and what speed do you want to get them to? So, for example, on my account, my ACID is 290 speed. He's going to go first, which is great. That's where I want him. My Dizzy, my Vasar, they're around 240 speed, which is great. Going to go after my speed contesters. Still faster than the enemy team, so I can get that strip, that debuff, etc. And they still have enough effectiveness to land those abilities majority of the time. They're not going to hit a 200 effectiveness or effect resist Momo most of the time, but they still have enough to land it on all the other important targets. My cleansers and my buffers, they're sitting around 230 speed. Slower than my CCers, but still faster than my damage dealers. Then my damage dealers, they're going to be coming in between 190 and 220 speed. Right after my buffers to make sure that they get the buffs and they get the damage in. I don't currently have any nukers, which is fine. I don't have a Judge Kisei or anybody that I have at that low speed. But if I did, like I said, they would have 0 speed. They would be at almost base speed, as close to it as I can get. And the rest of my healers are going to be sitting around 190 speed on my account. Now these speed numbers are going to change based on where your account level is, but that's just to give you an example of how like my team, their speeds based on what they're doing is going down from my contesters down to my damage dealers and nukers. It's like a ladder. You're gonna have this tier, then that tier, then this tier. So you got to look at your account and see where your team is at what speeds. What's the highest speed you can get on your ACID or whoever is your fastest character? Okay, so you don't want anybody. You want to give that gear to them. What CCers or debuffers do you have? Okay, give them as much speed as you can without sacrificing stats, and then you're gonna look at what speed do you want your buffers at? What speed do you want your damage dealers at? And so that's a good way to order your speed and your gear out to make sure that you get the right gearing and everything else. So that's all I got for today. I hope this was helpful. I know a lot of people they just pile on the speed, but it's really all about the tuning with that speed. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Please leave a comment down below if you liked it. If there's any other topics you want me to cover, anything that you're struggling with, I'll be happy to do a video on. Let me know. Please hit the subscribe button, help the channel out. Thanks for watching.